Hello, everybody. We're back for part 2 of Ted Lasso season finale, or series finale, episode 12, called So Long, Farewell. Hope you guys enjoy.
All right, we have Higgins and his wife has returned. She's lovely. And also Barb is in the stands. And Barb loves rugby because of the blood. Not a big soccer fan.
I appreciate that. Did you see Barb was trying to give Rebecca a high five? Like she had
I
her
did
hand
not
out the
catch
whole
that,
time.
no.
And Rebecca just kind of like waves, but then immediately puts her hand down. It was great.
Oh, that's funny.
Love Barb.
That's funny. In the locker room, Will delivers Zava's gift. Zava
Speaking
didn't
of
come
shirts.
back. Of all the actors and actresses not to bring back, why not Zava? Why
He
not?
technically made an appearance in this episode. I will let you know at the end of the episode, but he does make an appearance.
All right. Well, his gift is specially made T-shirts and a giant avocado.
Holy guacamole.
Holy guacamole. Yeah, to hear a British person say guacamole is a pretty good time. And the message from Zava is, I am always inside you, which is not at all disturbing. I loved it. In fact, I know I've talked about all the tattoos. That's how you say that word. I will be getting
tattoos
from this show. But the main tattoo I shall be getting is I am always inside you, Zava. I'm going to have to explain that one in 20 years. Well, listen, guys, there was this show. It ran for 3 seasons, and then there were like 5 spinoffs. And Kramer was in one. Anyways, Danny and Van Damme have a moment. Danny gives him a very lovely gift. And Tom, I feel like you were on this corner very early. I'm going to give this one to you. You can pull out the old finger guns or pull out the old rapier sword because that would be more in style with this.
Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Zorro.
What letter did you just make?
It was a T.
For Tom?
Yeah, but I did 3
3
slashes,
lines?
so I don't think that really works. I underlined it.
I'm sorry, it's a sideways H? Horo? Who is this guy?
No. There's a space. It's a clear
there's a
space.
All right. That's a messed up H. Anyways, it's a new Black Zorro mask, which, I don't know. I loved this. You did a great job pointing this out, and when this hit, I laughed so hard.
And it's the inverse of Zorro introducing himself to Ted, in season 2 or 1, where he's like, oh yeah, it's Zorro, and he pronounces it the other way, and now he's flipping it because he wants to go by the actual masked vigilante of Zorro. It was brilliant.
Yep. Antonio Banderas, we miss you. We hope you get well and come back.
Wait, he's sick?
I don't know. I assume so. Otherwise, why hasn't he done 12 Zorro movies? I assume the only thing holding him back is sickness.
I think his Zorro movies are Puss in Boots at this point.
Oh, that's right. That's right. He just moved into the digital space, I believe is what they're talking about. The crypto of movies. That makes sense. Beard puts together an inspirational video, a look back. And I was like, oh, I remember yearbook class. But how did you feel about the old a look back by Willis Beard?
I feel like this is a classic not movie, but show thing where they want to give you all the major beats and like emotional moments with all these players. And it was very well executed by Beard. So he maybe has a side career in video editing. But I love the idea of this like Ed Sheeran song coming in. And apparently I looked this up. This is an original song that Ed Sheeran wrote for like the show. It's called A Beautiful Game. And I've got some lyrics that we can talk about at the end of the episode. But yeah, it was an original and it was a very, very pretty song.
I did not know it was an original. I assumed most of Ed Sheeran's songs are about the game of soccer. But no, it was lovely. The whole team is weeping before the game, which was very, very funny. And it was great to have the announcers do their announcer thing.
Oh, yeah. It's an interesting strategy. One talks about crying, the other talks about, vomiting or something.
He's like, is it typical to cry before a game? He's like, no, that's typically reserved for nervous vomiting. That was all very funny. And as they pan down the team, the coaches are not crying. And then we get to Roy, and Roy is weeping.
You smashed it, says to Beard.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. we're at game time. We get a flash of Dr. Sharon. She's watching the game, and very quickly, West Ham scores, and then they quickly score again. And at the same time, we get, because you said all these games are played at the exact same time, correct? To have a
yeah, this is a very common thing here where fans are always like in the stands staring at their phones, where you kind of hear like sighs and things like that of fans needing some other team to win, lose, or do something else. So it was very poignant here. But yeah, Man City scores and they're kind of down a bit. And this is, I think, the only real mention we get of the other Man City game.
Tom, you point out that like all the games being played at the same time is a unique thing for this, or it's a smart thing. I want to point out that here in America, football, our final games, the Super Bowl, they are all played at the same time. So you don't know who's winning because all Super Bowls are played at the same time. So I don't think that is unique just to soccer.
I learned one thing about football.
You're welcome. It's been 8 years since we started this podcast, and you've learned one thing. So congratulations. You're Lasso level 10. Fire off and the announcement when someone reaches Lasso level 10 is finger guns. So you're there it is. And you get to slash your initial in sword. Go ahead. I'm glad there was a third one again.
I hesitated.
Well, you wanted there to be a gap as you underlined the T. I know what you're doing. All right. So once West Ham went up 2 scores, I mean, I don't think this is a thing I should get internet points for, but I was like, oh, Richmond's going to win this game. There's no way they put them up 2 scores, which I understand is a lot in soccer, but I was like, oh, Richmond's going to win. This is going to work out. We're ready for a locker room halftime speech. And boy, do we get a speech. And that speech starts with, shut your butts and sit your mouths down, which was awesome.
That sounds like something I would do. I mix up those things all the time.
Butts and mouths? You mix butts and mouths up all the time?
Just phrases and sayings.
Okay.
I'm not great with
Not
words.
specific to butts and mouths. Okay, good.
Sometimes.
Only at meals. Only at meals. All right. So, Ted gives a speech. And I want to point out, I've always said sports movie speeches are difficult because we've heard them all before. But I thought this one was very well done. No one's winning an Oscar here for writing. But, and that's not a criticism, that is just, I thought it did its job in this moment, which is, hey, we need to go out there, do our best. Then we have the peace of mind that's, we left it all on the field. And then this is where this episode got me, Tom. This is where I wept like Roy on the field after watching the montage video, which is Sam pulls out a piece of his Believe sign, which he has been keeping, and Jamie goes to the book that Ted gave them in season 1. And he hasn't gotten very far in that book because he's using the Believe sign as a bookmark, but he does have that book, which I believe he threw in the trash, but someone pulled it out in that episode, if I'm not mistaken. Did you like this moment? They all kept the peace.
It was beautiful because I think what we had, Ted mentions when he talked to Nate, like, oh yeah, I ripped it 2 times, so it's not a big deal. But then the idea that when Ted left that scene and all the rest of these guys are in the locker room and see this ripped up sign, their decision was to rip this thing up a bunch of times so everybody gets a piece. So I love the idea of this team doing something kind of like a bonding moment to say, okay, coach doesn't want to put up the sign because he still believes in the idea of Believe, but was trying to get us past it. These guys are like, no, like this is still like us. This sign means so much to us, and every player kind of like hiding it in different spots. Like Colin had it in his shin guard. McAdoo, I think, had it in his captain's band, which is a bold place to put it.
Sure.
But it was beautiful, and I loved everybody coming in. I do have to say, I felt like when they all put it down and then they had a little beat where they're going to start putting the puzzle pieces together, I'm like, uh-oh, something is going to be missing somewhere.
I thought they were going to get into an argument because if you've ever done a puzzle with a group of people, it can sometimes devolve into an argument. But really what they were doing is giving us the beat where Ted and Nate can look at each other from across the team and be like, oh, what was broken is being put back together. just like Aragorn's sword. Anyways, I honestly, Tom, this is why you're here. Someone mentioned something about, well, I guess that's number 4. And I was like, what? Number 4? I don't understand.
We were quite a few episodes removed from this, but this was the idea that I think when Trent he confronted Ted earlier about this and about what number 4 was or whatever. But this is Ted when he was trying to introduce his version of total football, like the quote unquote Lasso way. We had conditioning, versatility, awareness, and then now we are officially getting 4, which he kind of hid to himself, I guess. But, 4 being believe here. So they could have probably done a little bit more because I agree. Like it took me half a second to think or remember why he said number 4 and nobody else kind of batted an eye. But yeah, it's ultimately his Lasso wave version of total football.
I thought he was referring to one of the greatest movies of all time, I Am Number 4, which we all know is one of the best sci-fi films out there. Go watch it, kids. Don't write me at teambingepodcast@gmail.com because I don't want to hear about it. But he does end this speech with everyone putting their hands in, and he's like, they say there's no place like home, which, once again, foreshadowing that I think Ted might be from Kansas City, Missouri. And he says, but there's no place like Richmond either. And a lovely little moment. No one's crying when they're back out on the pitch for the second half. That's for sure, right?
That's a fair point. I would say this is a very emotional bit for the team. I guess they're just more thrilled and excited, but very emotional. And I loved Ted's line. I agree with you. It's not like huge award-winning speech, but the way it all kind of came together and the idea of putting the Believe sign back together, which kind of
paid off so much. That was
so well.
Yeah, I'm glad we didn't rely on Jason. Not that he can't do it, but what they did here was beautiful, and it certainly made me feel some sort of emotion. I can't tell you which one because I don't know what they all are. Yeah, it was a fear or arousal. I'm not sure which one.
Arousal, fear.
Arousal, fear. Yes.
Fear, arousal.
Fear, arousal. But we have this lovely moment where Tart scores a goal. I think this is the one where it like bounces off of everything, right? They do a funny sports bit here.
Yeah, where they like all of our main strikers are getting a shot and it's hitting off a post, it's hitting off a crossbar, and then eventually gets put away by Tart, which is great.
He bent it like, I'm going to say Beckham. And then we have a penalty kick, which I thought this moment was funny. And Jamie is the one who goes down. So the person that is fouled on a penalty kick doesn't have to take the penalty kick? Is that what
anybody can take the penalty kick. And I do appreciate that Jamie even gives a little wink and a nod that he did a dive here, just trying to get the call. But yeah.
Sure. And I think, they're like, oh, great work, Jamie. Played it up a little bit. So he hands it off to Danny Rojas. And Danny Rojas then hands it off to Isaac McAdoo, who we find out has never taken a penalty kick in his entire career. Because as we know, on soccer, there are guys on the field that their whole job is just to be tough and yell at people. So that's what Isaac McAdoo does. I did feel like at a certain point you're just passing the buck. I was like, oh, none of these guys under pressure want to kick this penalty kick. So it just gets delivered to Isaac. But I like what the show did where they were like, he's never taken one before. Also, they wanted to show us the dog in the helmet so that no dogs will die during this scene. Hey, Tom, remember when they killed that dog in Ted Lasso with a soccer ball? Remember that? It
was a bold choice. It was a season 1 opener or season 2 opener.
Season 2 opener. Man. Wow. Nothing like some dog aside to start a TV show, that's for sure. Look how John Wick's gone. Spoilers, sorry for those of you that don't know, but the dog doesn't make it. Yeah.
I feel like they did preface this a little bit with the idea of Isaac just crushing it literally through the net when he kicked that corner kick and then it hits and breaks the window and spills TL over Higgins.
Oh,
so
that's
I think
right.
they've established the idea that he's got a rocket of a foot.
Does he ever? But it's not going to help him because he misses. He misses this goal completely. Richmond loses and Rupert wins, and that's how the show ends. Is this a thing where a soccer ball goes through the net and they think it's a miss because they see it hit someone in the stand? Tom, don't answer too quickly. Let's leave the audience in a little bit of suspense. This is a show, after all. We're trying to entertain our ones of people that listen. So this has happened often and is a common thing when you kick the ball through a net?
No.
Awesome. Good. That will really pull in the audience. Everyone just checked their headphones. They were like, did my podcast stop working? And by everyone, I mean our mothers.
Modern day football, and it's actually funny because the ref in this is Mike Dean, which I think they make reference to. He is a famous English referee, so you'll see him if you're a Premier League fan. But the modern day referees have a watch that they wear, which will light up red if the ball crosses the plane of the goal.
Oh,
so they
really?
have kind of they've almost like tennis matches and stuff. Like they can challenge the play to see if the ball landed in. They've got similar technology in all Premier League games at this point.
So the ball has a chip in it.
It's not a chip per se. It's just the cameras are on the goal line. So if the ball crosses the goal line, then their little thing will light red. But I don't know.
Sure.
Maybe he kicked it too fast and it broke the technology.
Sure. Okay. The balls have all been chipped. I understand.
Do you still have that ball I gave you, right? I think it's in your backyard right now.
Yes. Oh, man. I have to plug it in just so the GPS will tell you where it is. Super annoying. Sorry, kids. The ball's got a charge. Anyways... Who takes this soccer ball in the face? I did write in the outlaw Rupert mad, which I think is just a great note by me when Isaac scores here. Wings
Rupert
night.
Mad.
Rupert mad. John's wings night takes this ball in the face. He's bleeding all over the place, and we finally get a reaction from Barb because she's a big combat sports fan and loves the blood.
Love Barb. Love this little bit from Barb. It's great.
This leads to Rupert entering the pitch with his cape. And I'm going to say he has one of those rich person staves with a diamond on the end of it. That he's also a cane, I think the world calls it. He walks out to Coach Balls and he's like, listen, you need to take out Jamie. I'm a villain. The show needs a villain. Villain. And then they get into a little bit of a tussle where he pokes the balls with his cane and that manager falls over. And we have a lovely line from the announcers where they say there are 3 balls on the field. And we get a little bit of blurring, which we appreciate the show. If you watch the show after 10 p.m., they take the blurring away because that's when they're allowed to show those kinds of things. So,
correct. Yeah.
Kids, if you sneak out of your room and watch Ted Lasso after 10 p.m., then they don't censor anything. Just a little hint.
And this is great, right? So this is, I'd call it a callback, but I would argue this is more of a ballback.
Incredible.
The idea.
Incredible work, Tom. Just incredible work.
But what they gave did they give his balls
what have we become?
The name? He gave them names of some popular British band.
Liam, and I don't know the Oasis guys. It's
there you
Liam
go.
and Chester.
There you
I
go.
don't know.
Yeah.
Conan and Liam. I don't know.
But great ballback.
Oh, incredible work, Tom. Just the highlight of my year so far.
But this is where we get the crowd chanting the wanker at Rupert, which is, I think it's poetic in and of itself. Like the idea that Ted, this is what he had to deal with when he kind of first became a Premier League coach, and the idea that the same set of fans that at one point Rupert maybe loved and loved this club and everything else, is now getting just berated by these people for his actions. I think is kind of nice, and I like what they did.
I did appreciate it. I did actually like where in 2 episodes ago we kind of saw the humanity of Rupert, but I understand what the show is doing in this one. And for those people that just absolutely hate Rupert, I'm sure this paid off quite well. But he'll always be the vampire hunter to me. So I hate to see him fall so far.
Can't wait to see him in the new Blade.
Well, there's all those tax things that Blade's got to figure out before he's allowed to. Anyways, let's not digress. There it is again. All right. We have West Ham scoring, but guess what, Tom? Number 14 was offside. And who catches this? But one Theodore Lasso. He points it out to Beard and Roy, which Beard then pays him, I don't know, let's say £5. This moment, I almost felt like this was ad-libbed. He holds the cash up to the sun as if, and Beard very quickly goes, "It's not counterfeit." And Ted's like, "It's not a reflection on you." This is just I don't know, that back and forth tickled me to no end. It was wonderful.
It was weird. But I love the idea here of Ted not knowing what offsides was the entirety of the series, and then he gets it at the very end with his little chuckle. It was brilliant.
See, people can change, Roy. People can change. This leads to some sort of free kick, and as you mentioned in the last one, Tom, Eagle Eye Tom, you saw the trick plays on the board. We go to one of the trick plays. Did this one have a name?
They kind of acted it out like it was the Oscar or Best Award or something like that. So this is what they call back to when Jamie was the decoy and then they left it in for Sam. I don't remember if this had a name on the board, but they did reference a handful of the others that we had read previously.
This was season 1, Nate's play, where he makes the recommendation of Jamie being the decoy, and then Trent comes in and he's like, "You are going to use your best player as a decoy." And then he like whips his hair around in the wind. Yeah, that was all season 1. But Jamie's the decoy. Tom, talk us through Jamie's decoy work.
These lines here was so good where he's like screaming for the ball. He's like, "Pass me the ball. Me. I want the ball. Pass me the ball, please."
So he does the exact impression of Ted when Ted comes onto the field in season 1 and he goes, "No, Jamie, you need to sell that more." And he does, and Ted does Ted, and literally Jamie is doing like it's almost like he watched that video and then did it all again. It was a great callback. His arm motions where he's like the 2 arms down pointing, all of that was in line with what Ted did in season 1. It's great.
Love it.
Sam scores and they win. Our man Colin gets to kiss his man, Winona Judd, or Michael, I guess is his real name. And we get a wonderful shot of the team surrounding Ted and him doing the old school lasso dance, which we saw in the pilot when he won that Division II football championship. And so it's a great callback once again. Can you do that dance, Tom? Tom, you are a dancer. I don't know if people know this because this is not a visual medium, but Tom can dance. It's a talent that God did not grace me with, other than classical ballet, but that's for me and me alone. Tom, can you do the lasso dance, you think?
I don't know. I feel like if I had some classical training, I could probably figure it out. I still can't floss. My body just doesn't figure that motion out. But I feel like I can do this little running man jig that he does.
Tom, even the old people in Bluey can floss. I think you'll eventually be able to figure out flossing.
I'll get there.
I'd be afraid I'd blow out a knee if I tried the dance that Ted does. But from that dance, we go to closing time. Anyways, we're at the airport.
Did we just get Julian singing? Wow, that was a treat.
Gonna cut that out.
Okay, these headlines for these magazines were just riddled with Easter eggs.
Tom,
so I paused.
I'm going to interrupt you and say this. I watched this episode twice. I did not for 1 second read any of these. So the fact that you went through them and wrote them down is your worth to me in this world. I'm sorry, not your total worth, but one of the reasons why I love you. So I'm going to give you the floor. I'm super excited about all of this, and I totally would have missed this had it not been for you. So I would like to say thank you.
These were great. When I was watching this, like the first time through, I was like, trying to look at the headlines and the other like side stories because I knew they would have a couple in there, but almost every side story in these articles and magazine covers that he's looking at has something for our characters. So the first thing we get, it's got a picture of Rupert's assistant, and it says Lust Conquers All welcomes West Ham whistleblower. So she's now going to go on the Lust Conquers All show, which is what Jamie left Man City for. So a fantastic call there.
Okay, so the whistleblower is the assistant. The whistleblower is not Nate. When I read this in your notes, I was like, oh, Nate's going to Lust Conquers All, which was funny to me. But in hindsight, since he's with Jade, doesn't make any sense. But I appreciate this. Continue, sir. You have the floor.
Yes. The next one is a picture of Bex, and it says Mannion's ex Bex inks book deal on placenta recipes, which is a headline.
Oh, man.
So
I will be buying that book. I love placenta.
We've got Zorro Summer Job Keeper to star in Jean-Claude Van Damme remake of Escaped Victory.
We called that! We called that, Tom! We said that Zorro would go do action movies. We called it.
Oh,
Wait,
so
how do you pull them out? Where's the safety? Let me load them. Those were my finger guns, Tom.
So good. And here's the appearance of Zava. Zava is right on the front cover of one magazine. It says, Zava returns to LAFC, so Los Angeles Football Club, and his little quote underneath is, they love avocado toast here.
Incredible. Just incredible. So many layers to that joke. So many layers to LA and those West Coast elites and their avocado toast.
Well, and this
incredible.
is who his character is based off of. Ibrahimovic is the guy that went to LAFC and I think is currently playing for LAFC. So it is a direct call, and they are drawing that correlation
that's funny.
to the character, which is fun. We've got another article cover, and this is Shandy front and center on this article. And it says, Shandy Fine, brains behind the hottest new dating app. And I think it says star effer above with a little star for the U.
I don't like to see her succeed, but that's funny.
Yeah.
That is funny.
And then a small little headline in there says, Jack Danvers is no longer daddy's little girl. So, again, kind of weird. And I don't know if I understood that.
More context,
the idea being,
please?
Well, I think the idea is that she is like a Nepo baby, maybe. And she got her, she makes all of her money from what her dad had won. Not won, but her dad's riches. So I guess she's no longer in dad's good graces because of whatever. Kind of odd to throw under the bus in this super tiny little Easter egg thing, but I don't know. I guess it's fun. I wasn't a huge Jack fan and how she treated Keeley, so.
Tom.
But so there you have it. There's all the headlines, and they were gold.
This is why you are Gumshoe Tom. Incredible work, looking at the details, really the Sherlock Holmes of our time. Thank you, sir, for the time and effort you put into that. I would have caught none of those, and that was
You're welcome.
Beautiful work. During this airport scene, we are finally informed that they did not win the Premier League title because Man City won their game. So they did not take the title. We find that Rebecca has sold 49% to the fans. And so this is Ted going through the gate and running into Rebecca.
Yeah, well, I think that is, so I take that back. That is one of the articles that we see, and probably the one that's front and center is the idea of Rebecca selling half the team here. And I like it because we got a couple lines from, I think it was Rebecca and from Ted with the concept of hey, they're just borrowing this team and all that kind of deal. So the fact that Rebecca is actually giving shares and giving it out to the fans is a lovely gesture.
Yep. Speaking of lovely gestures that I didn't need, the Ussy guy showed up. I don't know what this is. I don't know why this guy is in this show. I don't know whose son or nephew he is. But the Ussy guy came back.
Mm-hmm. And I will give a shout out to one of our loyal listeners and friend of the pod, John, who I think had called this in his prediction that the Ussy guy was going to show back up. And it is poetic, I guess, to a point, because he was in the very first episode in the pilot at the airport wanting to take a selfie, I guess actually on the airplane in the pilot, and now he's at the airport. So apparently this guy just spends loads of times at the airport. So I don't know what he does, but
drug mule.
Funny to see.
He's a drug mule, Tom.
Okay.
He's a drug mule or he sells soap. If Fight Club taught me anything, those are the two things
Smart.
that keep you on airports. Rebecca is there, and they have a moment here. And once again, I wanted more from this conversation. It just seemed very reserved for two people that mean a lot to each other. I don't know. Maybe it's because they've flushed out all the other conversation and they've talked about this all just off camera. Essentially, this comes down to a thank you and a thank you. And I don't know. I wanted more than that. I wanted them to tell each other, what they've meant to each other and how important this all was. But I guess I can also appreciate the brevity is the soul of wit. Is that how I don't know.
Yeah.
Was it missing here, Tom? Was there more?
I digress for you.
I think we're missing a digest and digress. I think that's what we've done.
No, I think Ted makes the idea or says something about like, oh, we're going to have a leave cute, which I thought was kind of funny. He makes a little line about her being a soccer mom, but they refer to her as like the club matriarch. So again, they're giving her that like mom reference or being like the club the soccer mom. So
right.
I thought that was kind of good. I, in all honesty, kind of liked the simplicity of them just both saying thank you and that super emotional hug and the incredible acting from Hannah Waddingham here with her eyes just riddled with tears, and like even after hugs Ted, kind of gives him a little slap on the shoulder. I think everything in that is it's unspoken, and we understand how much they mean to each other, and
That's
what
fair.
Ted has done to her and in her life and in her club and everything else. So I kind of like the simplicity of the scene.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, the actors do so much good work here that maybe it doesn't need to be said. I mean, it would have been nice that they kissed, maybe made out a little bit. I think that would have given the audience what they really wanted, but I'm glad they didn't. Beard and Ted are then in first class, and they've got a lovely little setup where they can stare at each other's faces for what I'm going to assume is a 20-hour flight. I don't know. And Ted's like, are we nuts? We almost won the whole thing, which is very much the conversation in the pilot. He says, are we nuts going across, to coach a sport we know nothing about? So once again, this whole episode was full of callbacks. I'm sure we've missed some. And for those of you that know we've missed some major ones, you can reach us at teambingepodcast@gmail.com. Or if you'd like to compliment us on our good looks, you can also reach us at teambingepodcast@gmail.com. But this is finally where... Did you think Beard was going to go? I was surprised that we got this far with Beard. I was surprised that he did not mention he was staying earlier.
Yeah, the idea that he was actually on the plane, and I even kind of made note of it, I think, in my first watch when they said, like, the doors were closed, and I'm like, oh, okay, Beard is, I guess, going back with Ted. It didn't seem to make sense, but it was a funny scene. I like how they gave Beard a little bit of a crazy acting sequence trying to pretend his appendix
Him screaming was incredible. He throws the water in his face, and Ted's like, I don't know what's going to happen, but that seems like a really good start. And Beard's like, listen, I can't leave. I love Jane, and I want to stay. And we find out his first name is Willis.
Ooh, that was fun.
Which was a good time. I would have guessed his first name started with a B. He just seems like a person where the first and last name would be the same letter, but
I thought it was Coach.
Projecting. That's a good point. Coach Beard.
That's what I thought. I thought it was a Mario situation.
Lovely. He starts screaming. Brendan Hunt does a great job here. It's very funny. I like this interaction with the stewardess, which I think is the same one as when Ted sends Henry home, and she's like, do you want to go with your friend to the hospital? He's like, nah, I'm good. And she calls him something unkind.
Yeah, she doesn't know the context of it. I do appreciate that when Beard starts screaming here, and then he starts holding his side, and he says, my appendix. Like Lasso says, no, it's on the other side. So he moves his hands to the other side. That was good.
Listen, if you were like, hey, for $1,000, point to where your appendix is, I probably wouldn't even be in the right body. I'd point at someone else. Good for those two. Mm-hmm. There's a hard music cue, Tom. What's going on here?
Oh man, this is a song that certainly gets me every time. And when I first heard this, it made me think of, I think, the end of Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I think they played this song as well, but very famous song by Cat Stevens called Father and Son. So very fitting title, very fitting song if you listen to the lyrics, and was just so perfect in this moment for them to kind of do all the montage of all of our characters, what's going on, and then ultimately ending with Ted hugging his son.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. I did not know that this was Cat Stevens. I thought it was Yusuf Islam, but maybe Cat Stevens covered it. I don't know. We have Rebecca walking through the airport, and who does she run into but one tall, handsome, and earringed Dutch pilot and his daughter, which Rebecca quickly kidnaps from the airport.
I love, very much a meet cute kind of thing at the airport, and the odds of this happening are silly, but I love the ending for Rebecca here. And again, she's not necessarily here going to be the mother of the club. She's going to be, potentially the mother of this young girl. And it was beautiful. And I like he sees her and doesn't even really know her name. Like, oh, this is a friend of Dad's. And she has to say Rebecca. And then his response back of Rebecca was just beautiful. Gets me now. I love it.
Yeah, no, it was a lovely moment. One's got to wonder whether or not that relationship will last if all she's in it is to steal his daughter. But, that's kind of the...
Listen, boat accidents happen.
Oh, wow. We just got dark in season 4. Oh, I love it, Tom. I love it so much. A gritty detective drama where Rebecca may or may not have offed her new husband in order to become the mother of the daughter. Incredible work, sir.
Hey, man. Gazella.
Yeah. Good callback. Good for you. Ted gets a snow globe. I don't know if you noticed this, but Ted's on an international flight. Once again, I'm going to guess it's a 36-hour flight. He's got nothing in his backpack but the present he got from Keeley. So this gentleman is going to be on this flight just shaking that snow globe for 30 hours. Mistake. Get yourself a book, maybe an iPad. I don't know. Anyways, so Ted and Beard have notes for Trent's book, which Trent then looks at. Oh, it was great. They both have very different notes, we'll say.
Well, and we've seen Beard, like his coach soccer books and all this kind of stuff, just riddled with different colored Post-its, and that's exactly what his little manuscript of Trent's is. Like, I've got notes, and it's just riddled with Post-its everywhere. But just so beautiful to see Ted saying, like, he loved the book, and the line at the end saying, like everything but the title, it's not about me, it never was. And again, it was just beautiful. Like, the show is called Ted Lasso. It certainly is. He is the catalyst and brings all this change to this team and this club and these people that he's around. But I love that sentiment and that idea that it was never about him. It was about the people that worked and brought Richmond to life. Loved
Right. No, it was a lovely moment. I do appreciate an author looking at someone who's red-penned their work and just being like, I don't have the time. I'm not going to go through Beard's version. I'll go through Ted's version.
Yeah.
We have KBPR has risen from the ashes, much like a phoenix. And
well, it's KBPR, so it's a new law firm. It's Keeley Barb PR, no longer KJ.
Oh, Tom, this is why you're here. I didn't notice that. Never would have. So thank you. I'm still interested to know what's in Barb's drawer. That's something they did not solve or wrap up. Probably vials of
murder
blood.
Weapon.
The murder weapon. It's a staircase. All right. There's a deep cut. Good luck to y'all. Roy is the manager of Richmond, which you made a comment earlier, like, hey, had we thought about this a second more, we would have landed at Roy instead of Nate. Great point. He is the right choice. Even though Beard and Nate are going to be his assistants, I do think that is a good thing. We have a lovely moment here with Nate and his family and Jade all at the Taste of Athens, enjoying that baklava, really digging in. And this was lovely. All of this is, I appreciate when a show does this. And sometimes shows don't, but like just hitting each character and giving me like a satisfactory ending. I don't know if you ever watched 6 Feet Under, but 6 Feet Under did this, where like the last 15 minutes they just hit every character and kind of let you know how they were going to end up, and it was very satisfying. But Sam is playing on the Nigerian national team, which we know was his absolute dream, and I thought that was wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely love that. I think we then get a cut of Jamie, who's back there with his dad, like sharing pictures and stuff. So dad's in rehab, and they're kind of rekindling their relationship, which was pretty beautiful as well.
Wonderful moment for those two, because Jamie doesn't have a lot of hairy older men in his life, so he's got Roy and his dad now. We have a Higgins barbecue, and everyone's showing up. I did notice. Actually, now that I think about it, maybe I didn't notice. Were any of the tables a surfboard? Because for Thanksgiving, a table, or for Christmas, whatever it was, there was definitely a surfboard table. Now I want to go back and see whether or not they brought that back. But they have everyone outside. They've got a lot of table space. Everyone's having a good time. I love that Higgins is done that for the team. And we find out that the pub crew, single-handedly between the three of them, own one share of the team, and then May owns a share.
May owns like a pile, right? She
does she?
Like rings and rings of paper worth of shares on the table just to stick it to these guys. It was pretty funny.
Did you notice the last names of all of the pub crew are all flower names?
No, I didn't.
Yeah,
That's
if
funny.
you look at their certificate, all of their last names are some sort of like flower related. It's very funny. Book signing is happening with Trent, and this is where we have Shannon, the soccer player from the park. She's having her book signed, and we find the title is now, instead of the Lasso way, the Richmond way, because it is about the team.
On the very bottom, too, it says a very brief forward from Roy Kent.
Roy Kent, yes.
A very brief.
Oh, it's so good. So good. Keely is in Rebecca's office, and she proposes a Richmond's women's team, a joint venture between her law firm and the Richmond AFC. I don't know how that works. I don't know what the legality is there. But
it's
this
kind of surprising.
is something...
I was going to say, it's kind of surprising there isn't a AFC Richmond women's team already. So I love this kind of idea and concept. Because I think, and I could be wrong here, but I think most of the major Premier League teams have women's teams. So I like this potential idea for a spinoff as well.
That's what I was going to ask, because I didn't know how common it was for Premier League teams to have a women's counterpart team. But
yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Chelsea's women's team won this year. So
next cut is Roy seeing Dr. Sharon, and this is going to make him a better person, less likely to punch Jamie in the mouth every time they like the same woman.
And it's him asking for help, right? Like it's like
right.
we kind of said earlier about how you can be better. And then I think as Dr. Sharon's closing the door, you see a little placard on there that says new Richmond head of mental health and emotional well-being. So she got the job and is now working actually for Richmond, which is cool.
Yep, and as it pans out deeper, there's an office next door that says Tish, Team Psychic.
Oh boy.
So they brought them both on staff. So choose your poison, kids. Beard and Nate are helping Roy hang the new Believe sign that has been taped back together. Looks great. I would assume eventually someone's going to spend the money to have that, I don't know, engraved, a more permanent option, just plastered into the wall. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. How would you rip it down emotionally if it was made of stone? I don't know. Speaking of stone, watch this transition, Tom. We're at Stonehenge, and Beard and pregnant Jane are getting married, and we see everyone there, and everyone's just looking fabulous.
Oh yeah, a lot of sharp dressed folks. But yeah, this is where we get Rojas kissing his two ladies, which was a great callback to when he was in his bed with the two women in a previous episode. But we also get a cut to... It took me half a beat, and I think we had to rewind it when me and my wife were watching this in the first go-round, where...
Tom, it took me until I read your notes in the outline to understand who this person was. When they focused on them, both me and my spouse were like, why do they focus on that random person?
Yeah, super weird. So a really big burly guy with a baby and this, woman in a red dress. But this was in the Beard episode. This was the lady in the red dress and then the guy that kind of like chased Beard and like beat him up or whatever else happened in that. So a very
It was
odd
the
callback to that specific episode.
big dude chasing him ultimately to give him back his phone. But he did. He busts down the door. Yep. Tom, I appreciate you because I had no idea who those two were. I was like, wait, what's going on? I was like, some WWF wrestler paid money to cameo in the Ted Lasso finale? That doesn't make much sense. And he stole a baby. Anyways, Ted arrives at home in a limousine as one does. We see Henry greeting him, and they have a lovely moment. And then cut, and you can finger gun it, Tom. We have Ted coaching Henry's soccer team and teaching Henry to be a goldfish. Even after he misses the goal. So
yeah, just
that's
a beautiful line. And then we get, not only do we get that beautiful line from I think it was a first season episode 2 when he says that to Sam, but then we get a quick little cut of Lasso actually like looking directly at camera and kind of giving a wink to the audience. Just like, it was great. And I think it was a very fitting, brilliant end to the story. You can tell these writers knew what they were doing. I think what we have talked about throughout the whole series is, I think there's a couple episodes that got away. I think this show struggled when it tried to go too long and focus a little bit more on like some of the social justice-y stuff. Like I think there's a place and time for it, but I think it was all rushed and didn't really just wasn't needed for a lot of these characters.
Sure.
But I loved all the callbacks. This would probably be a very, very fun show to go back and watch. So if you do go back and watch it, please go check out our back catalog. We did all these deep dive episodes for season 1 through 3. And I had a blast, man. So I'll just say here, like, thank you again for getting me into this show. This is the reason we started doing podcasts, was because of this show and the idea of being better people. And it was lovely. And I enjoyed talking through all these episodes with you.
I agree. Thank you for your time. And there's no one I would rather talk about a show about soccer and positivity and forgiveness, which are the themes that I will take from this. It was a warm blanket, even though there were times from like a viewer you could dissect and like have some criticisms, but overall it was a good time. To your point, could we have done like 8 episodes in this season and still gotten this same finale? Like they could have cut out a bunch of stuff. Yeah, but I appreciated what they did. It was a lovely time spending time with these people. And I think there is something that comes out of like the joy of this cast really seems to love each other and get along. And like you see that on, not that I spend a whole lot of time on social media, but because of our Twitter, like I will see it every once in a while. Not that I have the password because Tom took it away from me because there was an incident and I have apologized. It's fine. I've done some things. The Justice Department, the cease and desist doesn't matter. Who was Harvey Dent? And it doesn't matter. Anyways, I won't get into it. But I think there is something that comes out of a show where the cast enjoys each other and just the joy it is for them to make something and then to watch it. That I appreciated. And so you and I both love sports, and it's fun to have you explain to me, 7 times what offsides is, and then finally for me to get it in the finale. So, Tom, thank you. We will be back in some way, shape, or form. I think right now what we are looking at is the Apple show Silo, which we will be watching and talking about. It is a sci-fi show based on a book series, which I think I read like 1/3 of. But to Tom's point, if you enjoy us, you can listen to us talk about The After Party, which we will eventually be picking up for season 2 here. Tom, do you know when that one comes out? Is it in a month or so?
I believe it's July 12th, if I have that correctly. But yeah, coming up pretty soonish.
Okay, so I would encourage people to watch season 1 of that. It is a Apple show. It's a good time. In terms of the humor of it all, it is a very funny show. And then things are going to get weird. We will probably be doing Outer Range season 2, which is on Amazon when that comes out. So Lord knows what hole and what pasture that will lead us to, but we'll be around for that. And we appreciate all of you that listen to us. For those of you that have rated and reviewed us on Apple Podcasts, we do appreciate that. And then if you have questions, concerns, or comments, we mainly like to talk religion and politics in our email, so you can send that to us at teambingepodcast@gmail.com. Always great to hear from Barrett, Bernard, everyone out there that reaches out. We do appreciate the feedback.
Yeah, for sure. And again, we may be done with Lasso here, but we're certainly not going to abandon the community. Please follow us on social media, whether it's Twitter or Instagram at Team Binge or at Team Binge Podcast. We'll still definitely be around and having fun with the audience on some of this stuff, because it is a fun community. And to your point, a lot of it's entertaining and fun content, where a lot of social media can be the opposite. But it seems like Lasso community is
an understatement. Happy. What an understatement. Yeah. If you want to find the positive side of social media, stick with the Lasso crowd. And shows like this are important. I think we glommed onto this during 2020, 2021, when the world was weird. Not that it's not weird now, but it is nice to have some positivity in your life. And so, Tom, thank you very much for doing this with me. I know I had to twist your arm in order to, but it's been wonderful. And
it's been a pleasure, my friend.
At Team Binge, I have been Julian.
And I have been Tom, and I will officially close out our Ted Lasso pods with some beautiful lyrics from Mr. Ed Sheeran. Though we've not reached the end, we should take some time apart. Leave here with no regrets, knowing we gave our all. Oh, I cannot pretend that this won't break our hearts, but we will meet again. Goodbye, everybody.